Look, we were very clear that finally the Tory party concluded that Boris Johnson was unfit to be Prime Minister. That was blindingly obvious a very long time ago. But having come to that conclusion, they can't now expect the country to allow him to cling on for weeks on end. And so it's very important. We said that if they're not going to remove him themselves, and it looks like they're not, then we would step up in the national interest and bring this vote of no confidence. And frankly, any Tory that in the last few days has said they don't think the Prime Minister's fit for office because he can't tell the truth, he can't be trusted, how can they tomorrow go through the lobby to say he should stay in power for another few weeks?
So so it is symbolic. It's about politics. It's not. You don't really think that you're going to win the vote of no confidence.
I think it's very important that we step up and take whatever steps we can to remove him from office. He's unfit for that office. The reason that he is leaving office is, unlike previous prime ministers where it was a policy disagreement, he's leaving office because his own party have concluded that he can't be trusted. That if they go out on media with lines, those lines are going to unravel because they haven't got the substance of truth behind them. That is intolerable for the country as we go into the next weeks into September.
You talked about, I think it was Zoe from Sunderland in your speech yesterday, and how her electricity and gas bills are doubling. And the boss of Ofgem yesterday said that bills are actually going to be even higher come October. One analyst, Cornwall Insight, said £1,200 a year higher than they were in April. She'll be wondering, what would Labour do for me? What would a Labour government do for me? How would they help?
Well, for many people, this will be absolutely on their minds. You know, lots of people can't make ends meet at the moment, really struggling with their bills. If those prices go up again, and it looks like they will, then that's going to cause even more anguish. On this issue, Labour has led from the front. So we were out there very early at the turn of the year saying there should be a windfall tax the excess profits from oil and gas companies and use them for the energy bills of those most in need. The government was slow on that, refused to see why that was such a good idea, finally came to it. We still think there's other things they should do. Shouldn't be introducing and having the national insurance tax hike in the middle of a cost of living crisis. And frankly, what we need is an emergency budget to look at those price rises and put in place the support package that is needed. What you're not hearing, by the way, from any of the Tory candidates is any practical measures to address the cost of living crisis. They're in this fantasy world of spending commitments, £330 billion of spending commitments, when they can't say where the money is going to come from. And I think for millions of people who are going to struggle this autumn, they'll be looking at this circus of Tory contenders, baffled as to whether they live in the real world.
So you'd introduce an emergency budget, but to a lot of people, they'll still be wondering, well, what does that mean? I mean, would you commit to cutting VAT on energy bills, getting rid of the green levy, that kind of thing?
Well, we do think cutting VAT on energy bills is the right way forward. We don't think the national insurance tax should have been put in place, and an emergency budget will be an opportunity to deal with that. There are other things that need to be done. Insulating homes is desperately overdue. That would reduce bills significantly for millions of people across the country if that was put in place. So there are practical things that can be done. But unfortunately, we've got a government that is, absolutely asleep at the wheel now, dysfunctional, and, millions of people who are struggling with their bills will be looking at what's going on, with bewilderment and real alarm that you've got a group of wannabe Tory leaders who are not even talking about the single most important issue facing the country.
Yeah, we've heard from a lot of senior Labour members over the past few days, Peter Mandelson and so forth, that have said now is the time that Labour needs to define who it is, that for the time of defining yourself as not Boris Johnson is over. Boris Johnson will be leaving shortly. Are we going to hear some real concrete policy proposals from Labour soon with detail?
Yes, grow the economy, reboot the economy, rebuild, re-energise our public services which are broken, and unite the country. That is the mission of an incoming Labour government. And that's why we need not just change at the top of the Conservative Party, this circus that's going on at the moment. We need something much more fundamental than that. We need a fresh start for Britain under a Labour government. So we need a change of government. So we're very clear. Build that economy, grow the economy. It's the single biggest failure of this government over 12 years. fix our broken public services and unite our country. No more of this divisive politics.
Are we going to hear how that all happens?
Well, I set that out in a speech yesterday in Harrogate, what we would do to grow the economy. We've got the climate investment pledge. We've got the skills agenda we've already put in place. Buy, make, sell in Britain. That was a policy we unveiled at conference last year. So there are many things to support that growth agenda. We've been very clear on public services. We want preventative models for health, for mental health, for crime. And we need to bring the country together, no more of this divisive politics, ending the era of toxic division.